comes to spies in World War II, it's no secret that they were very influential throughout its proceedings. From the famous escapades of the elite spies of the time come to us many modern novels and movies, detailing the daring adventures of spies like James Bond and Jack Ryan in back-to-back, life-threatening, dangerous situations. But do our modern-day depictions of what spies did and how they acted actually reflect the lives and the work of the spies of antiquity? And furthermore, which spies did more to further their side's cause? To answer these questions and more, we should first find out why exactly countries used spies in the first place. Originally, spies were used as a necessity of national defense. In fact, the Abwehr, one of Germany's foremost intelligence agencies during World War II, actually came about from a concession to the Treaty of Versailles, which stipulated that their post-World War I intelligence operations be for defensive purposes only. However, in the 1930s, as the tensions in Europe came to a head, spies gradually took on a more and more offensive role, gathering intel from countries who were perceived as threats. Countries began to train their spies for offensive purposes. Spies were trained to clandestinely disrupt the enemy through hijacking and secret attacks, obtain enemy technology for their own side's use, and intercept critical enemy information. Soon into the war, many countries realized the gravitas of the situation and began to revamp their intelligence agencies. These included Germany's newly minted RSHA, Britain's Special Operations Executive, or SOE, and many others, like Russia's main intelligence directorate and Japan's Kenpai-Tai. So we know that the Allies ended up winning World War II, but what gave them the edge? One answer lies in Britain's double-cross system. As the name implies, Britain's SOE organized a system of intercepting the Axis' men and turning them into double agents who would gather important Axis intel for the Allies extremely effectively by gaining the German High Command's trust and exploiting it. Despite spending the first few years gaining its footing, the double-cross system really took off with its first major success in April 1942 with Agent Garbo. A native of Spain, he originally contacted MI6 with the hopes of spying on and reporting false information to the Germans and the Axis intelligence agencies. And spy he did, with several successful deceptions. First, he orchestrated and maintained a vast network of spies, an imitation information network, that he constantly managed so as to appear to the Germans as several different spies planted in Britain. His network was significant in entirely convincing the Germans to stop sending any more spies into Britain by 1942. Helping the Allies maintain secrecy of operation. But, with his vast fake network, Garbo and a team of other double-cross agents were invaluable in the execution of Operation Fortitude, the prelude to Overlord. By using his trusted status among the Germans, Garbo consistently muddled the details of the planned Normandy landings, such as the number of troops and the supposed firepower. However, his greatest asset was in tricking the Germans into thinking that the D-Day invasions were actually planned for Pas-de-Calais. We'll get into this more later in the video, but it's already quite clear that Agent Garbo's contributions were vital in the layout and execution of the D-Day invasions. Now, during World War II, there was always a fear that the enemy would develop such a high-tech weapon of mass destruction that one's defeat would be inevitable. This was certainly the case with Germany's development of V-weapons, flying bombs with deadly range. Without getting too much into the details, it's safe to say that the British wanted to do all they could to stop them. The Allies utilized double-cross agents, such as Tate and Zigzag, who had an in with the Germans, to report of the supposed effects of the bombings in a way that would prevent excessive damage to Britain. In one case, the spies convinced Germany intelligence that bombs had landed in great numbers in Southampton, a ruse to divert the German attention away from London. Apart from saving countless civilians' lives, this had the effect of protecting the necessary infrastructure for research and command centers in London. This, of course, greatly aided the Allies, because London was the focal point of British war operations. And overall, the work of the double-cross agents significantly helped the Allied cause. Now, you can't talk about spies without talking about the importance of codes and code breaking. The Allies' cryptologists made a name for themselves with the historical breaking of the Axis' communication code, the Enigma. The Enigma was a highly complex code that allowed the Axis powers to use it in the sea, in the sky, over the battlefield, and within their own secret services, safe in the knowledge that the Allies would never crack it. This secretive messaging system was incorporated all over Europe, but also in the Pacific theater, where the Japanese Navy used it in communications. However, when Alan Turing and the Ultra team at Bletchley Park finally decrypted it, making use of a machine called the bomb, it began to significantly turn the tide of the war of espionage in the Allies' favor. The first real benefit that the bomb provided in the war effort was in 1941, at the Battle of Cape Matapan. By deciphering the Italian Navy's messages, warning of when the attack would take place, Admiral Cunningham crushed the Italians and wiped out one of their cruiser divisions, crippling their naval power. The codebreakers' efforts helped Cunningham win in Italy's greatest defeat of the Battle of the Mediterranean. Turing's decryption of the Enigma also contributed greatly to Allied victories in the Pacific theater. Because they could understand the decrypted messages, Allied forces in the Pacific under Admiral Chester W. Nimitz intercepted a message of the planned Japanese attack on Midway, and that the attack on the Aleutian Islands, further in the north, was a mere diversion. With their forces rerouted accordingly, the Allies took the Japanese by surprise and accomplished a stunning victory. This victory of the Battle of Midway was a key turning point for the Allied cause in the naval war in the Pacific theater, all because of the work of dedicated cryptographers. Of course, you could argue that, even though important information was decrypted at times, the Allies couldn't always act on it. This was in some cases true, as with Operation Marita, the Axis' planned invasion of Greece. Although the Allies knew a significant amount of information concerning the invasion, they could not send enough military reinforcements in time. Another instance was in the Allies' cutting of the Axis' supply line to Tunisia. Authors Enrico Cernucci and Vincent P. O'Hara argued in their work, The Other Ultra, Signal Intelligence, and the Battle to Supply Rommel's Attack towards Suez, that, despite deciphering information about the supply line, the Allies only destroyed approximately 16% of it, mainly because they didn't have the available manpower at the time. However, the decryptors' efforts advanced the war effort much more actively than just passively. When asked about the value of their contributions, senior British Army officer Harold Alexander said, "The knowledge, not only of the enemy's precise strength and disposition, but also how, when, and where he intends to carry out his operations, brought a new dimension to the prosecution of the war." The decryption of the Enigma ultimately proved worthwhile in the long run of the war. According to Harry Hinsley, who was based at Bletchley during the war, just decrypting the Enigma shortened the war by about 2 whole years, and that without the work of the Ultra Group, the Allies may very well have lost Egypt, which would have sent back the planned chain of events leading up to the Italian campaign and even D-Day. Speaking of D-Day, perhaps paramount of the Allies' spies' accomplishments was the planning and setup of the legendary D-Day landings at the Normandy beaches, dubbed Operation Overlord. Intelligence agencies and spies were crucial in orchestrating this invasion because they expertly misled Germany's counterintelligence efforts and derailed their defenses around the beaches in time for the Allied landings. As mentioned earlier, spies were instrumental in the undertaking of Operation Fortitude, but they also contributed to many other facets of the D-Day landings. These included convincing the German High Command that the Normandy invasions were a mere diversion for the real invasion in Pas-de-Calais. Thus, even when the D-Day landings began, the Germans continued to keep a large amount of men, as well as 9 whole SS Panzer divisions, approximately 1,700 tanks, at Pas-de-Calais, significantly lightening the resistance to the invading Allies at Normandy. In addition, 3-man Jedburgh teams were crucial in diverting necessary German supply lines to Normandy by immobilizing the railways and crippling the power and communication networks in the invasion area. Parachuting down, these espionage teams infiltrated the German backline and sabotaged the numerous littoral defenses, including anti-air guns, turrets, and sprawling explosives scattered across the beach. Overall, without the efforts to misinform the German High Command and the work of the Jedburgh saboteur teams, the Normandy invasion would certainly have had a much grimmer outcome for the Allies. All in all, the Allied spies and their espionage work were extremely significant in the outcome of the war, especially in the areas of double-cross, decryption, and D-Day. The additional knowledge of the Axis' plans and crippling blows to their defense infrastructure from behind the enemy lines were extremely helpful to resisting the Axis control of Europe, and certainly proved vital in securing the Allied victory in World War II.